thing is to get going. Okay, so what does it really mean? Ad fraud is down, according to the Association of National Advertisers. There's my link. I made this a little too big today for a particular reason. Association of National Advertisers said global losses are only going to be 5.8 billion, which is better than last year. And that's good. Now, the New York Times, not the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal said that we can catch. And that's an important piece, but the Wall Street Journal is paywalled, which we talked about yesterday. And so I don't read the article there. I note the article came up, and then I go look for other sources. And this one wasn't as good a source, probably, as the Wall Street Journal. But it basically, where the Wall Street Journal went was it said that the fraudsters may have gotten better at it, and so we are catching fewer of them. But this article went a different direction. I thought it was a good one, and it said, this is great. Losses are down 11 on bot fraud. But would you tolerate that in outdoor? If they build you for 10 outdoor signs and they only put up 9? Would you go for that? No. And the article concludes, and I think this is beautiful, and it said that the major brands aren't growing anyway, so it's been unsustainable what the major brands have gone through. So obviously things aren't copacetic. But let's not settle for an 11% improvement when we are still very unclear. We're still very unclear on what digital advertising even contributes to the bottom line. And this is a point I keep wanting to make. Everybody's willing to dump millions and millions of their ad budget into vehicles where you can't even watch the ad. You can't even tell what's going on. It seems like such a beautiful environment for fraud. I'm not arguing for a Super Bowl ad, but at least you can see if it ran. Right? Some old school. And of course, a lot of the brands are going to stuff they can actually keep an eye on. Here's a sad one. H&M, which I'm not exactly familiar with, Swedish fashion giant. What do I know about fashion? Obviously nothing. Heinz and Moritz AB, H&M, said it ceased publication of its print catalog after 39 years. The move follows, and this is what I couldn't quite get. Was this Joe Keenan's take on the whole thing? The move follows dwindling interest from customers in flipping through glossy pages. Now, that is not the case. Not the case that people don't like catalogs. And I've been making that case for decades because the catalogs just don't go away if they pay attention. This is in TotalRetail.com. I want to say to Total Retail, and I'll contact Joe, that I worked with a retailer, not a fashion giant. It was a furniture retailer with about 80 stores. But they hired a VP of marketing, and they brought him in from a major packaged goods company, and he had no mail experience at all. And he said, I don't know what we're going to do. Basically, he said, I don't know what we're going to do with this catalog we have. And I was charged with growing the catalog. And I said, well, why don't we find out what good it is? And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, we can measure exactly the impact and the ROI of the catalog. He said, you can? I said, yeah, because we mail to the store and we ship to the store. Got it? So we can match back and see what happened. Okay. And I said, then what we do is we hold out some customers and we don't mail them. There you go. And so we'll take about 10% of your customers and not mail them. And we'll see how their spend afterwards compares to the spend of the average in the same time period. So it's a really good head-to-head. It's called it's called a head-to-head. It's called a holdout test. And it really does tell you what's going on. And so we did that, and we got a 300% ROI. So if the catalog was $1, the profit per customer was $3 higher than the I believe that's about right. It was the sales per customer was about $10 more across the board, and out of hundreds of thousands of customers for that time period. And this is furniture, so it's not something that you buy over and over and over. He said something very perceptive, though, and I have to put this in. He said, why would we mail a catalog to somebody who already knows about our furniture when our main problem is brand awareness in the marketplace? And I said, well, let's just see how it does. And so we did. And like I said, 300% ROI. So then what we did, we were noticing on the matchback, that gave us a couple more years to fool around. And I introduced to them other testing methods where we could test the offer. See, the advantage that print has, which most retailers don't appreciate, some do, but these guys obviously don't, because I have yet to do shopping on a phone. I know how to search on a phone. I've had a smartphone since way before, since probably before the internet. I had the Kyocera and all that, and the BlackBerry, but it's just not. It's not nice. There's things you just can't do that get taken away when you switch to the phone. So anyway, I don't believe that it's more rewarding than a catalog. I just don't believe it. And I think the numbers bear me out. So anyway, we noticed on the matchback that there were very, very, very similar similar addresses, but not identical addresses that were also buying. And so I talked to him. I said, we're seeing a lot of next door neighbors and things that buy, not the original person mailed, but the next door neighbor. I said, do you mind if we take that into account? He said, well, run it both ways. Well, when we did that, we found a 900% ROI on the catalog. See, the other advantage mail has is because it's so tangible. Unlike an ad or a pixel, like digital fraud, where they can put a 1 pixel ad enough to drop a cookie on your machine and enough to take credit for your sale when you eventually buy, because they are advertising basically fraudulently across a number of big platforms. Unlike that kind of shenanigans, when you actually get a real catalog, here, I got a real catalog. Got to send a proposal. When you send a real catalog, this is big. This is 150 pages of beautiful horse stuff and saddles and all this stuff. When you send something like that, you know that somebody sees it. They have to at least see it enough to take it from the mailbox to the trash. Okay? So it's guaranteed visibility. Now, it's expensive in comparison to a penny or two for a digital ad that does nothing. Actually, it's about 20 times more expensive to mail a catalog than it is to do a digital ad. But you know that it has effect. And so the other thing that print does really well is it lets you test. It lets you see what's going on. And so what we did with that retailer is we said, let's test some things. Let's test some different offers. And we just did postcards. And we tested long-lasting, always looks new, easy to clean. They were similar, but they weren't identical. And we found the best ones. And we found the ones that drove the traffic. And we measured it back to profitability. Just the same kind of methodology. When people talk about data-driven marketing, they rarely take the time to set up real data tests where the data can actually have value. I did some work for GM credit card, and they said, they flew me in and they said, we're glad to have you. And I said, why am I here? And they said, well, you're the best, that we've heard in the whole country about data-driven. And I said, well, what would you really like to know? And they said, well, this is back in the days when they were giving you use the credit card and then they would give you up to $5,000 rebate on a new car. They said, what we'd really like to know is who would have bought a car without the $5,000 rebate? And I said, oh, great. What answer would you like? And they said, well, we thought you were a data guy. We went data-driven. I said, yeah, but you didn't set up a test. You didn't have a holdout, did you? No, they said they didn't. I said, well, then we can make the data. I mean, there's ways to kind of analyze that, but, before and after, that sort of thing. But once you announce it across the board, you kind of lost it. Now, mail, you can do that. You can test offers in a targeted way. So I believe that this article misses the point of print completely, and H&M will reap bad benefits, and we'll get a new CMO in the not too distant future. I'm John Miglash. Subscribe on Periscope. It's periscope.tv. I put the link in LinkedIn. The link is up in Twitter. Click there, download the app, and subscribe. If you get it on your mobile phone, it'll whistle at you when we're live. Come on in and make some comments. I'm John Miglash.